Welcome to Tuesday's Tales. Today, by a landslide, y'all love Curious George. Y'all clearly love Curious George because this book won by a landslide. It was insane. So many votes. But I love Curious George too. This is going to be our story for today. Now, I don't know if y'all read this book and wanted a pet monkey when you were a kid, but reading this book made me realize I did not want a pet monkey when I was a kid. I was like, they're always getting in trouble. But this book always, when I looked at it, I thought about Snoopy. I was like, well, I know how Snoopy acts at a baseball game. So we're going to see what Curious George does today. Curious George at the baseball game. Written by Laura Driscoll. Illustrated in the style of H.A. Ray by Anna Grossnickel-Hines. Published by Houghton Mifflin. Not me. Alright. This is George. He was a good little monkey, and always very curious. Today, George and the man with the yellow hat were going to the ballpark to watch a baseball game. George couldn't wait to see what it would be like. At the baseball stadium, the man with the yellow hat introduced George to his friend, the head coach of the Mudville Miners. He had arranged for George to watch the game from the dugout. What a treat! George got a miner's cap to wear. Then he sat on the bench with the players. He felt just like part of the team. Oh. The players cheered a miner's home run. George cheered too. The players groaned at a miner's strikeout. George groaned too. Ah! Then George noticed one of the miners' coaches making funny motions with his hand. He touched his cap. He pinched his nose. He dusted off his shoulder. Thought George. Maybe this was another way to cheer on the team. So George made some hand motions too. He tugged at his ear. He rubbed his tummy. He scratched his chin. Uh-oh. Just then, a Miners player got tagged out at second base. The player pointed at George. "That monkey," he said. "He distracted me with his funny signs." The monkey's not the coach. Oops! The coach had been giving directions to the base runner. George's hand signals had taken his mind off the play. Poor George. He had only been trying to be part of the team. Instead, the Miners had lost a chance to score. George watched the rest of the game from a stadium seat. Or at least he tried to watch the game. There was so much going on around him. There was food for sale. There were shouting fans. There was a woman holding a big camera. The woman pointed her camera at some fans. And look! Those fans waved out from the huge screen on the ballpark scoreboard. George had never been on TV before. He was very curious. What would it be like to see himself on the big screen? He soon learned the answer. It was exciting. George liked seeing himself on the screen. He's getting up in everybody's pictures. "Hey, you!" shouted the camera woman. "Cut that out!" Uh-oh. George had gotten a little carried away. He ran off, with the angry camera woman hot on his heels. In the busy stadium breezeway, George hid behind a popcorn cart. He waited for the camera woman to pass by. Just then, George heard a noise behind him. It was a quiet little noise, like a sigh or a sniff. What could have made that noise? George wondered. George turned. There, behind the cart, was a little boy, crying. George wanted to help. He crept out of his hiding place and over to the boy. "Aha! There you are!" shouted the camera woman, spotting George. Then the camera woman noticed the teary-eyed boy. She seemed to forget that she was mad at George. "I'm lost," the boy said. "I can't find my dad." If only there were a way to let the boy's dad know where he was. But there was a way. The camera woman aimed her lens at the little boy, and there he was on the big screen for everyone to see, including his dad. "Is this your child or your monkey?" Within minutes, the boy and his father were together again, and the man with the yellow hat had come to find George. "I can't thank you enough," the boy's father said to the camera woman. The camera woman shrugged. "Don't thank me," she said. She patted George on the back. "It was this little fellow who found your son." Aww. And George was the star of the day. The end. Aw, that's cute. All right, our Bible story for tonight is a New Testament story titled "The Captain of the Storm," which grown-ups in your Bible you can find in Mark chapter 4 or Matthew chapter 8. The sun was going down. The air was warm and still. "Let's go across the lake," Jesus said to his friends. Jesus had been helping people all day, and now he was tired. So they left the crowds at the shore and set out in a small fishing boat. Jesus climbed into the boat to take a nap. As soon as his head touched the pillow, he fell fast asleep. It was a beautiful evening. A gentle breeze rustled the sails. The friends were chanting happily as they headed out into the middle of the lake. Everything was perfect, just right for a nice, quiet sail. They were only about halfway across when, out of nowhere, whirling winds swept across the lake, fierce and strong, like a hurricane. A blinding flash of lightning lit up the sky. Thunder roared right overhead. The storm blew the water into towering waves that hurled the little boat up, 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 and then sent it hurtling, crashing back down, down, down. The fishing boat was blown and buffeted and tossed and turned back and forth and up and down and left and right and round and round. And in the middle of the storm, Jesus was sleeping. Now, Jesus' friends had been fishermen all of their lives. But in all their years fishing on this lake, they had never once seen a storm like this. No matter how hard they struggled with their ropes and sails, they couldn't control their boat. This storm was too big for them. But the storm wasn't too big for Jesus. "Help!" they screamed. "Wake up! Quick, Jesus!" Jesus opened his eyes. "Rescue us! Save us!" they shrieked. "Don't you care?" Of course Jesus cared, and this is the very reason he had come, to rescue and save them. Jesus stood up and spoke to the storm. "Hush!" he said. That's all. And the strangest thing happened. The wind and the waves recognized Jesus' voice. They had heard it before, of course. It was the same voice that had made them in the very beginning. They listened to Jesus, and they did what he said. Immediately, the wind stopped. The water calmed down. It glittered innocently in the moonlight and lapped quietly against the side of the boat as if nothing had happened. The little boat bobbed gently up and down. There was a deep stillness and a great quiet all around. Then Jesus turned to his wind-torn friends. "Why were you scared?" he asked. "Did you forget who I am? Did you believe your fears instead of me?" Jesus' friends were quiet as the wind and the waves, and into their hearts came a different kind of storm. "What kind of man is this?" they asked themselves anxiously. "Even the winds and waves obey him," they said, because they didn't understand. They didn't realize yet that Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus' friends had been so afraid they had only seen the big waves. They had forgotten that if Jesus was with them, then they had nothing to be afraid of, no matter how small their boat or how big the storm. The end. That's a great story. Very good. All right. Story for next week's choices: Bringing Back, The Berenstain Bears, and Too Much Vacation. I don't know if we can all relate to that right now, but yeah, this is a great book. So we have this one, or new this week, Madeline. So vote in the comments below, or vote in my Instagram story next week for which book you'd like, Berenstain Bears or Madeline. And I'll see y'all next week. Bye.